Welcome to Soul Thrive, where we explore spirituality through healing trauma, shadow work, and applying the laws of the universe in order to master ourselves without the fear of the unknown.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Soul Thrive podcast. Today we have Abbe Feder. After years of enduring infertility and pregnancy loss, she created inCircle Fertility to help others find hope and strength on their own paths, navigating infertility and loss. And what began as sharing her story on the podcast, Immaculate Conception, grew into a global community of women seeking her support. Today, she coaches clients worldwide, blending lived experience with expert guidance. Welcome, Abbe.
Welcome, Abbe.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so glad that we get to have this conversation. This one's a really important conversation. I feel like there are so many women who have struggled with the exact same thing. And the fact that you went and created resources and are supporting people, like, this is just a very beautiful thing. So thank you for what you do. Honestly, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's one of those like lemonade out of lemons. I think we don't always choose the path. Sometimes the path chooses us. So This is like, no doubt I went through it to be able to now help other people going through it.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
It's funny that you said that because my question was going to be if you could tell us a little bit about your journey, and then what is the biggest thing that you learned about yourself throughout this whole experience?
Good question. So my journey is really, we were young and healthy. We got married. We were 32 when we got married. And we were just like starting to hear stories about our friends maybe going through infertility. We were just like, oh, thank God that's not going to be us. You know, nobody thinks it's going to be them.
Mm-hmm.
We had nothing diagnosed and we were trying and it wasn't really working. And we started seeking medical treatment, and then the medical treatment wasn't working, and it was like really low level, that we weren't at IVF yet. We were doing like IUI, which is a lower level fertility treatment, and testing and some injectables, but like nothing major, because we kept thinking we're going to be fine. Like, we have no issue. This is not going to be part of our story. This is just a fluke. Let's try again next month. And before we knew it, I was like, well, 3.5 years have gone by, so something's going on. And so the thing about IVF is that you learn so much more because you're taking everything out of your body, seeing what's happening with it before you put it back in. So you're learning, like, when sperm and egg are meeting, are they fertilizing? Are they multiplying in the right number of cells? Are they growing to an embryo stage? None of which you can do if it's inside of you, right? So the beauty of IVF is that you can do that and find all that information out externally. And partially to our delight, partially to our dismay, everything was great. We were making embryos. We sent them up for testing. They were coming back normal. So we really couldn't figure out what was going on. And we did our first round of IVF and we transferred embryos, and it didn't work, which I also never expected. You think once you get to IVF, you do it once and you get your baby. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like shocked that it didn't work. And so at this point, we were in it for 4.5 years. And this is when our podcast came to be. This was like before there were a million podcasts. So we didn't grab a recorder and say, this will be a podcast. We just needed an outlet. We needed to talk about it. And it was like our friends and family felt it was like they're sick of hearing it, which they might not have been, but that's how we felt.
Right.
And so this recorder became sort of our default therapist. And we would record fights we were having. And I don't even know what we were thinking it was going to turn into. We just wanted to have this footage. It all of a sudden felt important to document what was going on, because I'm like, so many people are going through the same fight tonight, the same round of shots tomorrow, the same scan, and no one is sharing that information. So my husband, we live in LA and he's in the entertainment business, and randomly was connected with somebody who was like, my podcast company, we were like, what are podcasts? Right? It's like 2017, 2018. What do you mean your podcast company? What do they do? And so he was like, well, we do all these comedy shows and they're looking for something a little more serious. Anyway, long story short, they decided it would be really meaningful to produce this as a fertility podcast, documentary style. At this point, we had done, I think, 5 rounds of IVF by the time we started getting into the studio. I know, it's insane. And it was kind of at the point where it did not look like it was going to happen for us. And we were starting to have those conversations. What does it look like if it doesn't? Do we pursue other avenues to parenthood, or do we choose to stop pursuing all of these important conversations that really nobody's talking about? And so we just kept recording, and I had like, I knew in my gut I wasn't done trying. I just knew. I know for some people that might sound really frustrating because they're like, well, I just know too, and I'm not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And like, great, keep going if that's what feels good to you. I just knew I was going to be a mom, and I was open to other avenues of parenting, like adoption, egg donor. I just didn't feel like I was there yet. I'm like, I just need to keep going. Mind you, we had no insurance coverage. We were hemorrhaging money out of pocket.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the other
We
thing.
had, thank God, really good credit because we were able to get a lot of credit cards with zero interest for a little while. My husband was like, I think you're crazy. Like, what do you mean? Like, we've done this so much. How can you keep going? And I was like, I'm just not done. So we sort of had agreed to do this one last like Hail Mary round.
Mm-hmm.
We were maybe starting to interview surrogates, and lo and behold, I got pregnant.
Right.
For real. Like, I had already had losses. I got pregnant, and now I have twins.
Oh, that's
I know.
wonderful.
And people see me all the time, and I have boy-girl twins, and they're like, oh my God, boy-girl twins, one and done. And I'm like, couple $100,000, 6 years, and like then one and done. But yes, I feel really lucky that I got two because I ended up having an emergency hysterectomy postpartum.
Wow.
So that my uterus was like, I'm just done, girl. You've done a lot with me. I gave you what you needed. Goodbye.
Yeah.
And really grateful. I think I would have really struggled if the choice to have more had been taken away from me without having what I wanted. But like, I couldn't want any more. I got a very happy ending. So and then that podcast, when it came out, it was again, there were no fertility podcasts out there.
Mm-hmm.
So people were just reaching out left and right. I need help with this. I need help with that. And I just saw the gap that needed to be filled. And so that's how my business was created.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite the story. Honestly, I mean, such a blessing that you stuck with it. And I know a lot of people, don't talk about it. Like they're a little bit more open. I think that there is more of like an understanding that, yes, I've done IVF, or I'm doing IUI, or I'm taking medication. I have had friends who have struggled with fertility issues for a very long time, myself included. And, it's like, it is a mind thing. You have to have a strong mindset in order to be able to go through this. I have had family members who have struggled with this, have had miscarriages, and they were just like, we were blessed with one and we're done. Sometimes I've had friends who've gone through it multiple times and it just still hasn't worked. And it's been very hard and difficult. And they've had those same conversations of what's the next step? Is this the surrogate? Is this sperm donor? Is this is it donor eggs? Like, what is it all going to look like moving forward? And some people, they stick with it, and others, they're just like, I can't go through another round of this. This is just too much. It really is. It's the mindset of it. And the fact that you were mentally strong enough to say, no, like I have my convictions and knowing what my truth is. That's a huge thing. But it's also okay thing too, for women to kind of feel like when you're done, you're done, and
because I think if you look at it, of course, you're done with that part of the journey, but you look at it as choosing your mental health and not just defaulting to this, like, I'm done, I've given up.
Yeah.
I think it's I know so much easier said than done, but there is power in saying, I'm going to choose me and I'm going to find meaning in my life. They're not the only way to get there. And I think it takes a lot of work when women are on this journey and then decide to stop pursuing treatment to get to that positive mindset, positive in quotes, because positive is meaningless, like to that, like a strong mindset, so a mindset of choice. And that takes a lot of work. But if you can ultimately pivot to thinking you're choosing yourself, you're choosing to stop doing this, torturing your body, and stop torturing your mental health, then that's a very valid choice too,
Did they, when you were going through the testings, like, because obviously they're going to test your eggs and then they're going to test your husband's sperm, like, did they come up with anything, like, as far as like a chromosomal issue, a fragment of something that's like, so.
Yeah, you were saying the embryos were formed and then nothing.
Yeah, right? They were coming back normal. With all IVF, if you're testing embryos, they can find something with all of them, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they're not viable. So like the average is if you send, let's say 10 out for testing, usually, let's say you get 10 you do your retrieval, you get 10 eggs, let's say 8 of them become embryos. You send 8 to testing, and like between 2 and 4 will come back as viable or quote unquote normal. So that kind of attrition rate is normal. And that's what we were getting. We were losing half, but that's like half of those did have some kind of marker or chromosomal abnormality, which is very normal.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was really nothing diagnosable. And even I was convinced I had silent endometriosis.
Yes, that's like so common. Yes.
It's so common. And I'm just like, what else could be going on? And when my hysterectomy happened, I asked them to take it to pathology because I'm like, this is it. It's going to come back and it's going to be silent. And they were like, no, it was in perfect condition. So,
wow, interesting.
You know?
Then it kind of goes into like divine timing, I think, too.
Yeah.
Like it kind of does, like, you know, the universe was like, no, we're going to bring this in at the right moment, at the right time for you, even though you've gone through so much of that, much of a struggle.
And I do believe deeply in that for so many things. And when you're in it, it's really hard to hear, right? You're like,
oh my God, yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You're like, you know, nobody should be like, well, this round just wasn't the one that was meant to be for you. But I would punch them in the face.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally. I'd be the same, even though I'm like, no.
Right. Like, and I do, again, like I do believe in that. And I was doing all the things, acupuncture, Reiki, energy work. Like, I was getting infusions of like fat lipids to try to keep my immune system really healthy to like receive an embryo. I mean, you name it, I did it. So, so I was open to all of it, and I do believe in divine timing. And, you know, I'm very much like the soul of the baby is very different than the physical manifestation of the baby.
100%.
Like, you know, I look at my children and I'm like, those are the souls that were meant to be my kids. And anyone that's gone through this, when you get to the end of the road, you will likely feel the same way too. But it sucks to have to go through and wait for, because there's the uncertainty of like, is this going to ever happen for me?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Living in the unknown of anything is just so hard.
Do you think that the element of letting go had a role here? Because I recall you were saying that, you know, you were going to give it one more try, and then you were looking at surrogates. You weren't kind of holding on too tightly to the idea of this is how it needs to be for me, or like this next one needs to be the one. It feels like there was a bit of like letting go and surrendering to whatever happens next.
Yeah. I think now looking back, I could say it was letting go. In the time, it felt like defeat. I was like, I'm defeated, but I'm going to put one foot in front of the other and just do what I should do. But yes, it was like, I'd already been through so much, like what more bad news could come my way at that point? So let's just throw the kitchen sink at it and, you know, cross off everything that we've tried and move on. And even, you know, once you've been through all of this, then if you get pregnant, you're terrified that it's
there's that too. 100%.
Not last. I mean, I didn't believe they were going to be here until they were here, you know. And then you have a whole different set of things to worry about.
And then they're here, and then you're like, oh my God,
Exactly.
what did I do? I had 2 of them now, and I kept them alive. Like, how did this happen? It's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Parents are always going to go through that. Even when your kids become older, there's always going to be that uncertainty of like, is everything okay? No matter what.
Right. I think it's true. But you know, you're so right in that I've had so many clients even who've gone the surrogate route and get pregnant while they're waiting for their baby to be a surrogate.
Actually, that happened, funny enough, to a family friend of ours. She had endometriosis. They told her that the possibility of her having kids were very slim. And her sister, I think it was, said, I'll carry a baby for you. Don't worry about it. She did.
Then she relaxed.
Literally, she got pregnant right after.
And it literally has happened to so many of my clients. I can't even tell you, like, more than actually that had happened to my fertility doctor, which was part of why I wanted to work with her, because she really understood the plight of what we were going through. And she went on to have multiple other children, some via surrogate, some by herself. But I can think of at least 3 clients that's happened to, including one who literally she flew from California to Tennessee to pick up her surrogate baby. She's in the hospital with him and she's holding him and she's like, I feel like I haven't gotten my period in a while, holding her newborn, takes a pregnancy test and is pregnant.
Oh my goodness. I just got
And
goosebumps.
then 3 years later, completely spontaneously just got pregnant again. And she's like, oh my God. I like, and she had gone through miscarriage after miscarriage. I mean, that's why they moved to surrogate. And she's like, when she was going through it, she could have never said God has different plans for me because it was too painful.
Of course.
But now that she's on the receiving end of these blessings, she's like, I can't believe it. I guess God had different plans for me.
Yeah. So sometimes, I mean, from a spiritual perspective, like the esoteric way of looking at this, when I'm working with people's energy and I'm looking at like souls and all of this kind of beautiful process, I'm always like, oh, it's not going to happen because this child wants to come in at this date, at this time, with this type of purpose and this type of experience, and you haven't gone through this traumatic integration that you need to do. You need to heal this part of you in order for it to allow that soul in. It's so hard. I would never, ever explain that in the moment of whenever someone's going through this. But I will say, and I am announcing it on here now, that I've seen it. Right. Yeah. And I've recently even had a conversation with a client of mine who was very open and very receptive through her own rejection wounds and her own battle with herself, like how she's felt about herself and her body and her experiences. She suffered from an eating disorder. She suffered from so many different layers of rejection. So, there's an unsafety in the body. So how do you, it's a bit of a contradiction in energy around like, I want to be open and receptive to allowing this being in my body, but yet I keep rejecting myself and I keep punishing myself. So how does that work? Of course, you can allow a soul into a degree because you are not a house of safety.
It's funny. Now I remember. You won't remember. She never does.
No.
There was a workshop, I want to say like 27, like long time ago, maybe 7-8 years ago. And somebody was trying to get pregnant. And I think you said something along the lines of, you have to stop mothering your mother.
Oh, yes.
So you have to cut the cord with your mother. You can't make the space.
No, you can't. I've also seen that too. The parentification that happens with like so much trauma where a child's raised in environments where they have to take responsibility for their siblings or responsibility for their mother. And then they want to have their own family, but the burden of that is still so ingrained in their trauma that they can't allow that space or energy in. So there's so many ways of looking at this too, from just like I said, a spiritual esoteric perspective. Of course, then there's like the physical aspects of things with that too. And then there's like, well, why isn't it happening for me? And so this client that I recently was talking to, I said, these are the reasons why you wouldn't allow a soul in. And I'm going to say to you, because we're working on healing this aspect of you right now, that you may miscarry. Like she was open to it. I said, I'm telling you that. And then she came back and was like, and I was like, okay, so let's do what we need to do to make sure that your body will house this experience to allow the soul energy in, right? And I think there's so many facets. Like you were so open to acupuncture and all those things. And all of that was super important to prepare your body to allow your twins in. Twins, two, not one, two. Yeah. That shows how much integrative work that you did in that moment, which is like amazing.
And I don't know if you know this about my story, but I actually ended up getting pregnant with 3 that time and had to reduce from 3 to 2.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Oh, yes. Wow.
And I'm very at peace with it because I just know that third who I had to terminate to make my family happen, they would not let me carry 3, was the angel that was needed to come through me to give me my twin, like to give me my family. So I'm very at peace with it. I have people are like, oh my God, what if you could have had all 3? I'm like, it was that was not ever supposed to happen. But it was very hard. I did a lot of work on trying to having to reduce is horrible. I don't wish it on anyone.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
But there was hope for me. Like, okay, if there's 3 in there, chances are I'll probably have 1. And finally I was like, I'm going to have 1.
Yes.
So then when I got 2, it was like such a bonus, but it took me a lot of internal work to figure out because all 3 were growing and after failed round, ectopic, miscarriage, then all 3 were growing. Like it made no sense.
Yes.
And a lot of work on like, how do you decide which one you're going to terminate?
Right.
And I did a lot of like physical work, energy work. I have a friend who really helped me with this. And I have no doubt that it turned out the way that it was supposed to, and that one just needed to pass through me to get to wherever that soul needed to go.
I love that because there's so much truth in that. That right there is so, I mean, the idea at times that a woman goes through a miscarriage, again, I'm talking from the spiritual perspective, and like you, whether you're choosing to let it go or whether or it's a loss in itself,
right?
That soul still did what it needed to do, period.
Yes.
It showed up for what it needed to do. It already knew what it was supposed to come here to do. And like, that is like the acceptance stage. When you're in it, though, I understand we can't sit here and say that it's not painful. How do you think you processed a lot of that grief? I know that you worked a lot with some people and stuff, but how do you think that you went through like the stages of grief with all of that?
Once I was pregnant with my twins, like once we had finished the termination process, the reduction process, and I knew my two babes were healthy, I did not feel any grief. I only felt gratitude for that soul that had passed through. Previously, when I went through miscarriage and my ectopic pregnancy, I was a hot mess. I was horrible. When I miscarried an IVF embryonically tested euploid embryo, like I was gutted. I don't think that could even happen. I'm like, but it was tested. What do you mean it didn't? There's no heartbeat, And that's when my grief, that took a long time to heal from. And I wanted to move on to the next thing.
Right.
But like I always tell my clients, you have to feel it to heal it. And I could not move on until I really felt healed. And honestly, that first miscarriage, I would say, was like the depth of despair in my marriage because we handled it so differently.
Yes.
And, you say for better or for worse, you don't know what your worse is going to look like. Mm-hmm. He didn't think he was doing anything wrong in terms of how he was dealing with it because he was like, let's get back on the horse. Let's keep going. Where you got, and I was like, no, I can't do any of that. I'm really sad, and he was just trying to say what he thought was the right thing to say. And we hit a real low point for sure. Plus everything's heightened, right? You're spending all this money on treatment. And then you're like, why am I reproducing with this a-hole who can't even handle my sadness when I, right? Like everything is bad.
So true.
Yeah. That first miscarriage, it took about, I don't remember how many months, let's see, almost a year for me to quote unquote get back on the horse and go again. I had to do some other testing and some other stuff, but I needed that time. I needed the mental health break. And I was still at that point in my 30s. And I knew I was making good embryos. So I didn't have, some people, if you have like diminished ovarian reserve or you're not getting great quality embryos, time is much more sensitive. Mm-hmm. Sure, the clock was ticking for us as I'm inching closer to 40, but I knew I was making embryos. So that took a little bit of the pressure off for me. I knew I could take a little bit of time to have some mental health space that I just needed. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I just talked about it a lot. I think I made a lot of people uncomfortable at the time because nobody was talking about it. And I was like, I am handling this on a daily basis. I can't pretend like everything's fine. And I don't know how people do.
I was literally that was gonna be my next question. You're reading my mind all day today. It's like when you say the process, what did that process look like for you? Feeling the feelings, but then now you said like talking about it. And is that what you also tell your clients? Like, how do you support your clients the most? Like what are women looking for the most in this process, and why do they come to you?
There's a lot of, for my clients, well, let me talk about my clients and then I'll tell you for me how I process, but much of my process informed how I handle my clients. Every client's different, of course, and every person's going to grieve differently and move forward with treatment differently. But a lot of them are like, is this normal? And even though you can hear from a million people, this happened and it was normal and this happened, when it's you, they need a lot of confirmation and validation that this is normal, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And it always is, because there is no normal, right? Everybody's journey is normal for them. And they don't want to feel like they're the outlier. They don't want to feel like because this one set of circumstances happened to them, it's never going to be able to work again. There is always a way. It might not be the desired way. It might be a much longer way than the way you want it to go, but there is always a way. And I think they need a lot of validation in that realm. For me, I talked about it, not in a sense of like, I need to talk about this loss with my friends and heal. I like literally needed to blurt it out in conversation sometimes and make people feel uncomfortable because I was like angry that nobody was acknowledging that this happens all the time. I'd see somebody after a few months like, oh, remember last time I saw you when we were doing IVF? Yeah, it didn't work out. I had a miscarriage. Now, looking back, that was horrible. That was not a very kind thing to do to
I would have.
I think that's something you would do.
That is exactly how I would respond. Just so you know, this is what's going on in my life right now, and it sucks. I'm notorious for that.
Totally. And everyone was like always walking on eggshells with me because they're like, is she in treatment? Isn't she? Did she have a loss? Didn't she? And that's what they think they're supposed to do. And I would have so much rathered at the time that they had said, listen, last time we talked, this is what you were going through. I don't know where you are now, and you don't have to talk about it. But if you want to, I'm open. I just wanted to know someone was there.
100%.
And no one was. And they didn't know better. And I think we are getting better at that piece of it because people are talking about it a little bit more.
Yeah, it's funny because in our community, a lot of the girls and my closest friends and stuff, we've had conversations like that they're single and they're like in their late 30s. And I'm like, have you guys not thought about doing IVF and freezing your eggs? And, like I'm like all for those conversations all the time. I'm like, I think this would benefit you in this way if you did this. Like, what would you think? And because everyone also romanticizes a lot in their minds as well about like, oh, when I get the partner, and then when I get this, and then when I get that, then I'm going to have this. And then like, no, but we're running out of time to a degree. Not to say that 40 is old, because it really isn't.
Right.
You could still get pregnant at 40. You could still get pregnant at 45 if you wanted to. You're just at a higher risk bracket.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's like we weren't having these conversations and we were putting these limits on our lives and our experiences, and we're always waiting for like something else to happen to make it happen. And I was like, well, I think it's important. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about what your journey's been like. Like my journey hasn't been easy either. I've gone through a miscarriage. I did IUI. I'm not mentally strong enough, I think, in my opinion, to do IVF. I just don't. I'm very sensitive to all the medication. You've seen how I've responded to it. But my entire life, I've never known if I want to have a child. Do you see what I'm saying? Like for me, it was never something that I was like, I need to have a child.
Yeah.
It was like, if it happened, amazing. If it didn't, I'm fine.
Yeah.
So it wasn't something that I wanted to put my whole entire life and effort into because I deal with so many people's inner child and childhood wounds and childhood experiences. And I'm mothering so many people all the time that to me feels a lot. And then on top of doing that, having a kid feels a lot. So the conversations are important. And I was like, why can't I say that? Why can't I communicate these things to people without feeling the shame or judgment? And I think that's like really important, whether it's like I'm going through this journey and I've gone through so many rounds of this and this really sucks and I'm in a lot of pain with that, to I don't want to do any more than what this looks like. And I want to have this experience to, you're right, maybe I should freeze my egg so that I have the possibility down the road if Prince Charming doesn't show up and then I don't have whatever and I have choice in the matter.
Yeah.
We got to get better at that for one another without this like, ooh, I don't want to say something without upsetting this person right now or making them feel a specific way. Because I've been on the other end of that too. I'm like, ooh, do I ask? Like, is it bad?
Same. Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? I'm a very blunt person, so I'm going to ask. And if it offends you, I'm really sorry. Like,
totally.
I care. It's like, I care. I want to know, are you okay? And I think that matters more than the judgment or shame or the taboo of like, you're not allowed to have these conversations. And I wish that more people did. So good on you for making people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. And that was honestly why we did the podcast too, because I was like, we need to be having these conversations. We have to we would role play them. This person said this to me. This is what I wish I would have said. This person said this to me. I want to put that on my list of people I want to punch, right? Like, so that other people can learn what it's like to physically be going through this as a couple, as a woman, as a human, And I took solace when I was able to sort of make someone uncomfortable and then ease into why we needed to have that conversation,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Sorry about your miscarriage.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, it was really early stages. So it was like what they refer to as like a chemical
Yeah, but
right?
it doesn't matter. It's still a lot.
And it was interesting because I remember saying to myself at the time, I feel really different. I started to see my body change in weird ways. And at the time I just didn't have any hope to the experience whatsoever. And then I did do a test and the test came like inconclusive. Like it was like not like positive, very faint, but not negative. So I was like, what is happening here? And my doctor was like, no, most likely you had a chemical pregnancy. Actually, most likely she said that you've been having multiple chemical pregnancies.
Mm.
And that was interesting because like I was going through all the stages of like, I know something's up with my body. I know there's something happening right now and I can feel the difference in myself. And yet, okay, what just happened? Like I'm late on my period, but I was late like a week and then my period would come and then all of that kind of stuff. Right. So I was like, so it was like my body was prepared for the idea or the concept of it, but then it just wasn't happening. Right. So it was interesting to sit down with the fertility doctors and kind of have that conversation with them and be like, what is happening here? And they're like, you're having chemical pregnancy loss. And like, I was like, is that even a thing? They're like, yeah, it's a thing. Yeah. And I was like, wow, okay. So yeah, it was. And then that one time it was longer. I'd missed my period a little longer, still very early. And I was like, I'm bloated. Like something doesn't, like, I'm really not sitting well with like certain things. And then I circled back and I was looking at photos because I'd done like a photo shoot or something. And then I saw my stomach. I was like, that was a pregnancy. I'm like, that was a loss. So, I mean, I've processed a lot of that because it's been years. I started at 35 and now I'm 41. So, I've made I accepted the reality of what my choices are. And that to me was very important so that I don't walk away down the road feeling a sense of resentment.
Yes. Huge.
Because that conversation of like coulda, woulda, shoulda, is like worse than whether or not I did or didn't.
I totally agree. And that is also a lot of what I deal with my clients, especially when they and their partner are not on the same page about that.
Yeah.
Which, I was always, my husband was like, we're hemorrhaging money. What are we going to do? And I'm like, I can make more money one day. I can't make more eggs. So that was like my baseline of where to take every decision from. And for some people, the stress of not having the money is way more important. Great. Then let's flesh that out and make sure we're making decisions from that place and not, So like you're saying, choosing that became your baseline. So making all decisions after that from what your choices were is how you were able to do it.
Yeah. I had to. Otherwise, I think I would have spiraled in the idea that, I mean, it's also like it can tie to so much shame too, because it's like, well, like there's nothing wrong with you. And like, you could do this and like, and it was like, but now it's all on me. And I don't know if that's the journey that I want to have. And that's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of, I wouldn't say sorrow with it because like I said, I wanted to really address the underlining childhood traumas with that for me as well, and that was really important. And then I was like, okay, so like that doesn't define me as less than anything else. Like you said earlier, like this is who I am. And that doesn't take away. And some women are choosing not to have kids. And that's fantastic too. Yeah. Because they're choosing to put all their love and nurturement in their careers and all their friendships and life in so many different other ways.
Which is great. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. 100%.
It feels like sort of as we're having this conversation, like acceptance is a big thing. Acceptance of your journey, acceptance of where you're at. Even you yourself were saying, I accepted that I have to go through this process. I'm going to give it one more try. I'm going to maybe try the surrogate route. I'm going to try different things. How do you, and even for myself, I mean, we talked about this. I'm 41 as well. It took me 8 months to go back to the fertility clinic and freeze my eggs a few years ago. Because Christina had mentioned that to me and I was like, no way, like it's fine. But then I actually went to the clinic and they said, I'm in the bottom 4th percentile when it comes to egg reserve.
Right.
And they're like, we can't tell you the quality of your eggs. I mean, you can be healthy, whatever.
Right.
It's when you extract the egg and then you fertilize it is when you really see the state of it. But I can tell you that your basically running out of time, which is literally my trauma
Oh, that's
in
trauma.
general. That's like my,
Yeah.
when it comes to my life, which is so funny.
Urgency.
It was like, I'm running out of time. That's been the narrative my whole life. And now when he reflected back to me, I was like, oh my God. But then it was about sitting down and accepting that this is where I'm at. I mean, I also had to realize I haven't taken this journey seriously. I haven't taken dating seriously. I didn't really, similar to Christina, I didn't really ever feel like, well, I know I really want to be a mother. Even to this day, I think I could also go 50-50. It's like, if it happens, great. If it doesn't, also great. I think it's a good neutral place to be in. I mean, that's how my mom ended up getting pregnant with my younger sister. We are 10 years apart. And this is like in the late 80s, late 90s. She just gave up one after trying for years. And then the moment she gave up, she got pregnant. But anyway, back to the original question. Like, now I'm just going off on a tangent.
I love it. I love the tangent.
I do
so
too.
much is like, it's processing, right?
The one who goes on tangents. This is great.
So you're happy
I love
it's her.
it.
Yeah.
But I think, acceptance is key. It's like, okay, this is where you are. This is your situation. It's not about self-blame, but understanding that you've come to this point. You may have played a role, whatever. Now what? How do you help your clients navigate that? And how did you navigate that? Because through your journey, so much has happened. I'm sure you've had to accept multiple things as your journey went on.
Yeah. And in the moment, I did not do that very well. There's, like you said, Christina, the woulda, should. I never wanted a woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept going, or I made a decision based on that. And with my clients, the one thing that I remind them very often, and this week in particular, like all my clients, we talked about this in every session, was your future is not dictated by your past. Yeah. And that is really hard to remember when it's your body, because you assume if something happens once with your body, it's going to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
And there's evidence that maybe, but like, there's no guarantee that just because it happened a certain way, positively or negatively one time, that it's going to happen again. So it is like, there's a lot of, well, what if I would have taken this one drug? But you didn't. And like, maybe it sucks. We can talk about that. But what do we need to do to be like, let's accept where we are right now, exactly like you're saying, Ivana, and move forward with letting go of the past, like letting go that this is what this is what this cycle turned out as, letting go of what you maybe could have tweaked a little, and let's just pull it into the forward and do differently what we want to do differently.
Yeah.
So, and again, it's like that rough line between mourning what happened and moving them forward. I don't want them to ignore what happened, but like, my job is to keep them eye on the prize. And that one prize is the healthy pregnancy and then a baby. So sometimes I'm like, you be a mess over there. I'm going to hold the hope for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to figure out the best way to move us forward. You can be a mess as long as you want, or at least till next Thursday or whatever.
Right.
And then like, I will be here for when it's time to move forward,
Right. Yeah. You're holding space for them.
Mm-hmm.
You're becoming a rock for them through that. And then you're not judging the emotions and all of that comes with it, because on top of that too, you're injected with so many hormones.
Yes.
You are not yourself.
No. And when you have a loss, the dips, it's like everything's moving one direction and then
100%. The lows are lows, the highs are highs. Absolutely.
Total Jekyll and Hyde. Yeah. Total Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Ivana, how did your egg freezing go? Was it good? Are you happy you did it?
Went, so I had to do it twice.
Okay.
Because, we didn't get a lot the first time.
Okay.
So I think I have something like 11 in the freezer right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, whatever, we'll see what happens. I know statistically, because I was 37 when that happened, and they said to me, likely 50% of them are no good. And then likely out of the 50% that are left, maybe the other 50% won't form an embryo. But it's so funny. I actually don't really think about those probabilities in my mind. I'm like, I have 11.
Yeah.
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 That's all you need to think about.
Well, I don't know.
Something.
Yeah.
And
I'm not really putting that stress for some reason on it, because usually I'm always like,
operating with like holding on.
But with this, I'm like, at least, I've done what I could. I did 2 rounds back to back. That's also something, the fertility doctor said, you're here. You may as well just do it again. So I went through, the drugs were fine. I was okay. You feel shitty the last 2 days, just, leading up to the actual retrieval. But my body handled it well. And I think one of the big lessons for me coming out of that was my body can handle more than I think. because one of the big fears that I've also had, even when it comes to pregnancy, because my mom basically, I think she almost died having me or after having me, was that is dangerous. I can die. Something's going to happen to my body. My body won't be able to process it. So I think one of the reasons is that, and that's the trauma that's prevented me from even thinking about the possibility. Like, it's like motherhood is here, but I'm here, right?
Yeah.
Because of all these projections that so I'm like, oh, okay. So like my body can recover and it can do that. Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. And do you feel like it takes the pressure off dating for you?
100%.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it.
Right. I tell a lot of my clients when we're working on like whether they're single at like in their late 30s, I'm like, why don't you just look into your fertility so that to take off the pressure.
Take the pressure off. Totally.
Right.
Like I have a daughter. I'm like 25th birthday. We're freezing our day.
Yep.
Oh my God.
It should just be
That's
standard
so
protocol.
smart. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Had I done
if we knew.
God, it's like we were having this conversation because my parents are so supportive of me not having a kid.
Yeah.
And they're like, whatever you choose, we're content, like,
awesome.
which is like a beautiful thing because coming from a traditional Greek household, they're like, wow, family, like, what do you mean? Like, there's all those types of things, right? And my mom, but it's funny because my mom's story was that she only wanted one, right? And then she had two, like 3 years.
And you were the second? Yeah.
Oh, I'm the first. My sister's second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So my sister's 3 years younger than me. The story was not that she didn't want to have my sister. She ended up like feeling really
Yikes.
you could see the favoritism, by the way, just saying. But she really just wanted one. But also because she was an only child.
And then she was like, no, I need another one.
Yeah.
Oh, Jenny. We love Jenny.
Yeah, she's hilarious. But there's a lot of that, right? And so support's really important, working through this process of understanding what works for you and what doesn't work for you, letting off the pressure so that you have the freedom to choose, I think, as well. And I think your story really puts a really good perspective of like, you can do really hard things and you can surrender and you can give yourself so much. What would be your overall message for someone who's going through something like this?
Or thinking about embarking on it?
Well,
they should come see you, number one.
Yeah. First come see me. Definitely freeze. If you're wondering if you should freeze your eggs, yes, you should. But also that kind of what we were saying, you have to make the decision about what's best for you in the moment. And if that means taking a break for your mental health, there's nothing wrong with that. And if that means going from cycle to cycle to cycle and being on hormones for that long, if you can handle it and that's what you want to do, that's okay too. It's really a matter of like, so much of this process becomes out of our control. So find the pieces that you can control, the decision making, the rate and speed at which you do these things. If you want to go again, if you want to switch clinics, right? Like those are the things we can control. Really know what those are so that you can try to release the rest because it's really out of your control anyway.
Yeah. Abbe, thank you so much for coming onto the Soul Tribe podcast, and thank you for sharing your story. This one was a really important one.
Thank you.
This message was beautiful.
Guys.
Thank you so much.